I just started the recording. Perfect. So here I have joined information from two tables. We'll discuss on joins and unions that are related to SQL under this section. Okay, let me show you the training plan. Here in these topics, we'll discuss about SQL. What is a join, what is a union, and everything. Okay, awesome. So coming back to our Tableau. So right now I have joined two tables, customer and people. And when I did that, some of the columns are coming from people table and some of them are coming from the customer. So which are coming from people? I can get to know from this table name here, people.person. So if I hover on these, it's going to say which table and which column name it is coming from. So for example, if I hover here, customer, the cat, this column cat is coming from the customer table. How do I know? Like if I hover on that, I have, it's basically showing me customer.cat. Okay, that's how I can identify that it's coming from the customer table and the name is CAT. This is my metadata. Metadata is nothing but information about the data or data about the data. Okay, awesome. So if I need to rename this, say to category, I can click here and rename it, or I can right click and click on rename. So now when I go here, it's going to show category. Now if you see customer.category is being displayed. If I need to reset the name, I can click on reset name and it goes back. If I need to rename, done. Okay. And these are all of these options we have already explored. Now the last thing that I need to say is this option, the sorting. So basically if I click right now, if you see this icon, small, there are basically three lines and the small line is on the top, middle line in the middle and largest line at the bottom. That means this is ascending order. This is my descending order. And this one, because this is not sorted, that means this is the default data you have. Okay, ascending, descending and default. Okay, assume perfect. Then we have already explored on the live and extract options, creating a Tableau data extract. I can place some filters on extracts. I can aggregate them. I can roll up the years also. I can select all of the rows or only few rows. All of the rows or few rows. Now one option I haven't said earlier is incremental refresh. Now let's talk about that. One moment. Okay, perfect. So in this one, we were talking about incremental refresh. So right now we are creating an extract, right? That means we are basically downloading all the data that we have and saving the data as a local file. So imagine a scenario where you have like a million rows. So a million rows, okay? Let me do that. Okay, right now I have a million rows. Now on the next update, you're basically trying to add 10 rows. Okay. Now it's not a good idea to, like wipe all of these out and then load the new data, right? We can simply add this 10 rows. It basically takes more time to delete all of these 1 million rows and then add them. So what we can do is to just add these 10 new rows. We can click on incremental refresh. What this does is basically it's going to add only new rows. Now, how does Tableau know whether this is a new row or an old row? Okay, so when I select this, it's going to say, okay, can you select the column on how should I identify whether it's a new row or an old row? Okay, so if I select order date, that means any distinctive value in the order date means it's a new row. If I say row ID, for example, in my case, I'm identifying each and every record based on my row ID, and I'm giving, if you see, like first record is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So that means I have to give an incremental refresh on row ID, because any new row that's being added onto my data will have new row ID, right? So that means any new row ID is a new column. Oh, sorry, is a new row. Okay. Is everyone clear with that? Anyone who did not understand this? Okay. I'm assuming all of you understood, and we'll go to the next topic. So that's my live and extract connections. These are my extract filters. History gives you history of your extract, and hide all fields. Unused fields basically is going to hide all those fields or columns which you don't use. The use of this is it loads the data faster compared to, like basically, if you're not going to use this column, there's no point in showing this column, right? So if you hide this column, that means you're trying to load less data. That means you're basically saved. Your file is small, that means it's easy to sort through them. It's easy to, like you're not carrying all the redundancy. That means all that that's useless, you're not carrying it around. Okay. Okay, I'm going to unmute you because we are finished with this page here. So if you have any questions on this, speak out now. I just unmuted all of you.
Shiva, I have a question. So in row ID or whichever column it is, so you are doing an ascending or descending order. So what is the use of this? Doing at this level?
Doing at this level, so basically I can get a feel of the data. That's all. There's no other point, basically, for example, because I clicked on incremental right now, even if this was not the first column, like imagine it something like this is there, okay? It's not sorted in a correct way. Now, I wouldn't have known that this is a unique ID. I wouldn't have, like I would not be able to select row ID. Why would I not be able to select row ID? Because I don't know whether each row is unique or not. There can be one more 742 in the database or in the column. There can be one more 593. So now
Okay.
because I sorted them, I can see and take a look on the feel of the data. So now I can see, okay, each and every value is unique in here.
Okay. So this is just only for the viewing purpose. It's not related to any performance or something like that at the time
No,
of.
no, no, not for performance, no.
Okay. So
Okay.
coming to incremental, so you have been selected as a row ID, right? So
Yeah.
what if I have an order date with a timestamp? Okay, so which field is better to consider? Since a order date is also unique with a timestamp, so
Mhm.
which one do you prefer?
Okay. First thing, order date is not unique because, at least in our case, this is not unique.
Yeah, here it's
If
not, if you consider
Yeah,
as
assuming it's unique because of the timestamp, I would still prefer row ID because row ID is a number. I would choose to go for a number than a date.
okay,
Nevan, I'll come back to your question in a moment. Okay,
okay.
did you understand now, Vasu?
Yeah, I got it, Shiva. But
Okay.
what if you want to choose row ID or customer ID in this case? So both are
Mhm.
having values. Okay.
Yeah,
So
basically, I would choose row ID. Okay. Um, before we further venture into this, do you know the concepts of candidate keys and primary key?
yes, Shiva.
Okay. Can you tell me what is candidate key? What is a candidate key and how does it differ from a primary key?
Yeah, primary key is a unique set of records, but whereas a candidate key is dependent on the primary key.
No, 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 no. Candidate key means it's unique for each row. Okay. Candidate key can be like a combination of order ID and order date. can be unique. So that means you can say this is a candidate key. You can say row ID is a candidate key. Now the difference is that you basically choose from these candidate keys only one which is best suitable for your business, and you name it a primary key. Okay. Now everything else, even if it's a unique identifier, you'll not choose to go for that. So the one field, or maybe like a set of fields which you have defined in your business as primary keys, you would choose them in the incremental refresh. Okay.
Okay.
I understand. Okay. So basically the definition that you said for candidate key is not what you said. Okay.
Okay.
So take a look at the candidate key. It's also a unique identifier. What happens when you have more than one candidate key? That's the scenario that you're asking. So in a scenario like that, you choose one according to your business and you leave out others. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Coming back to others questions, Sarita asked, does incremental refresh includes all of the new rows, or can we control it? Well, Sarita, for your question, we can control it basically by saying, by placing the filters and so on. Okay. So while we are defining the incremental refresh, here, if we select any filter, it will still validate this filter and then only try to apply the new rows.
Okay.
Sarita, can you mute yourself? Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Okay, next question. Let's see. Next question was asked by Sri Harsha. Oh, sorry, it's not a generic question. Okay, Raven asked me, how do we identify if there is any duplicate data? So Raven, based on your primary key, you will identify if the data is duplicate or not. So for that reason, that's basically completely on the database side. While we are discussing SQL, we'll come back to that. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Any questions other than this till now? Perfect. I'm going to mute all of you again. Then we'll come back. Okay. Now in this, till now we have seen on, I did not explain to you the different joins, but I'm going to explain these joins to you when we are discussing the SQL Server. But now I have explained the live and import is done. Store the data in Tableau in-memory file, TDE extraction, done. So the next one we'll see is loading the data to the worksheet and know the basic template of Tableau. Okay, awesome. So here, if you observe, this is the data source. This is already listed. So this is the default view, right? Here I have connected to data, that's all. So this is called a data source pane. And here by default, one worksheet. This is a worksheet, okay? Oops, sorry. So this is the default view for your worksheet. Okay, this is the default view for your worksheet. Now let's discuss the hierarchy on what a worksheet is. What is a dashboard? You see here, it's new worksheet, new dashboard, and new story. Let's see the hierarchy first. And once we are done with the hierarchy, I'll explain the basic UI on the worksheet. Okay. So what happens is basically in Tableau, we have already discussed this. So first we connect to the data. So that's why this is listed on the leftmost part. This is the first step that you do. So we read from left to right, right? So in the same way, data source is listed at the leftmost pane. So now once we are done with this, we'll do the development. So development can mainly be done in two stages. The first is the granular level. That means our worksheets. If you observe here, sheet 1, this is sheet 2. So these are your worksheets. Okay, this is the most granular level that I develop my dashboard, or my work will be developed in this way. Now, once I have this all smallest elements, I combine this and make a dashboard. So what is a dashboard? Dashboard is nothing but collection of worksheets plus few more elements. Few more elements are like putting an image, putting a web page and things like that. Okay, but the most granular level of my development is worksheets. After that, you take some collection of worksheets and make a dashboard. Something like, if you have a school, all the all the students are the most granular level you can go to. So what is, like, you can say like a lot of students make up a school, but in a school there are few other elements like teachers, like books and so on. So those are few other elements. Okay, so granular level is your worksheets, and collection of your worksheets mainly is called a dashboard. Now once you have a dashboard, now this is a new feature that came from Tableau 8. New feature from Tableau 8.3. Oh, sorry, 8.2. The new feature is called a story. Okay, what does this story mean? So story is nothing but collection of dashboards and worksheets. Okay, story is nothing but a collection of dashboards and worksheets. Okay, that's all. This is a new feature that came from Tableau 8.2. Now you might be asked in the interviews, what is the difference between like what are the enhancements that Tableau received between 8 and 9, between 7 and 8? So remember, these are very important. These are some of the generic questions that are asked in the interviews. Okay, perfect. Now let's talk about the first level, is the granular level or the worksheet. So this is the view of worksheet, how it's going to look like. On the top left here of all the pane, other than your menu bar and so on. So this is your data. So here all of your data connections will be listed. So if you are connected to more than one data source, it will be listed in this section. So let's see how to connect to a new data source. You can go here, click this arrow, click on add new, or the second way, click on data, click on new data source. The third way, you can click on this icon, add a new data source, Control D. This option will also be available on your worksheet also. Add a new data source. So let me click on this. I want to connect to one more Excel file. Say I want to connect to 9.2, this file. Okay, click on open. Now this will have the same view as the earlier one. I want to select orders now. Now whenever my data does not look right, this option comes, Tableau Data Interpreter. Once you click this on, it's going to format the data accordingly. If you want to see the results of it, you click on review results and you can see what are the changes it made. If you don't want your data interpreter to make any changes to your data, click on turn off. Okay, awesome. Now if you see here, you're connected to one customer plus of sample superstore and orders of sample superstore. You have two data connections. So if you go here, you have two items listed here, customers and orders. Okay, now both of them are live connections. So this orders is selected as live, customer plus is also selected as live. I want to do it as an extract, click on extract. So extract. So whenever I try to navigate to some other page, it's asking me to save this extract. Where should I save this local copy? Remember I mentioned to you, when you click on extract, what you're essentially doing is you're taking all the data and you're saving the data as a Tableau file. What is the Tableau format file? Format of the Tableau file is Tableau data extract or .tde. Now you can give a file name for that. Let's say I want to give customer. That's the file name I want to give for this data. Click on save. And once I click on save, this extract will be created. Just a moment, it's going to create the extract. Now, what is the use of extract? So if the number of records that you have is like not a lot, or less than around 50 million, then your extract will be faster. Why is that? Basically, once it downloads the data, based on the worksheet that you develop, your extract will modify its indexes, its keys. It's basically going to reformat itself so that it will be optimized for the work that you're doing. Okay, so that is the reason it will be faster. Now coming back to this, so this is an extract, the customer plus this one, and orders is a live connection. Now when I go here, if you observe this, the orders is listed as a cylinder, but customer is listed as like two cylinders where there's a small arrow from one cylinder to the next cylinder. So before I say how to interpret that, let's talk about what a cylinder will signify. So mainly in computer science, whenever the symbol cylinder is used, that means it's a data server or it's a data source. Okay. So wherever it's used, database or database server or data source, you represent them with a cylinder icon. Okay. Now here you have only one cylinder. That means there is only one data source. But in this case, there is a small arrow from one cylinder to the next cylinder. That means you're moving your data from one data source to the next data source and using that new data source. So that means you're basically downloading that and saving it somewhere else, right? That small arrow will signify that you're downloading it. So that is the reason they gave that symbol to an extract. Now to move it from a live connection to extract, we have just now seen. Now what if you want to, like don't want to use an extract but want to use a live connection from this? You can right click this, uncheck this use extract option. Just uncheck this. Now this is a live connection. If you want to use extract again, click on use extract. Now this is extract. So if the data is different between your extract and live connection, so whenever you use an extract, the dashboard will also change between these two options if the data is different. Okay. Now one last thing I'll say for extracts before I unmute you is that to refresh the extract. So just now we have created an extract earlier. Oh, sorry. Right, let's use extract. Okay. So we have seen on creating an extract from a live connection. We have seen on going to live from an extract. Now, how do you refresh the extract? So the two options are, let me first show you, this is an extract, right? Now the first option is on the data source pane, you have this refresh page. Okay, this one, refresh. This will refresh your extract, or right click extract and you click on this refresh. Now this refresh is different from this refresh. Now let's see what the difference is. Whenever you refresh your extract, that means you're refreshing just the extract. But whenever you clicking and refreshing it here, that means you're refreshing your live connection. Remember, I told you, even if the connection is live, you will have a little latency. Latency is nothing but a little lag. It can be from 2 minutes to 1 hour, depending upon the data connection, the size of the data that you're connecting to, and so on. Depending upon the cache of your server, there are many elements involved. So if you like say the data is changed in your server and you don't want to wait this 30 minutes or 2 minutes also. So what you can do, if it was a live connection, right click, click refresh. Now what it will do is basically it will load all the data, load all the new data again. But in this case, if you click on refresh, the live connection will be refreshed, but not the extract. So to refresh and extract, under extract menu, you click on refresh. Refreshing the extract will replace its contents. If you have modified filters or hidden fields, you may be replacing important data. Are you sure you want to proceed? Yes or no? I want to do it, so I clicked on yes. So now what it will do is it's going to clear the cache for my extract and download the new data over there. Okay, awesome. So before okay, I'm unmuting you. Go ahead with any questions that you have. Okay, do you have any questions, guys? Okay, you have muted yourself before like you speak and I don't hear that. Okay, I'm assuming.
Yeah, Shiva, I have a question.
Yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
so you are doing an extract refresh. Okay, in the first data source we have an extract. Okay, you said we should use that particular extract if we have a less than 5 million records
50.
or 50,000. Yeah, 50,000
50
records.
million, 50 million, 50 million.
50 million. Okay, so I was an impression that it has to be a reverse order. So can you just explain with example?
Okay, so the reason why I said 50 million is that, so if it's less than 50 million, Tableau can handle easily. The first thing you have to remember in this is that Tableau is not a data server. When Tableau was developed, all you had was a little bit of Microsoft SQL Server or a few small SQL servers, and mainly the data was coming in Excel or Notepad files, maybe Access. That's all. The concept of big data was very new for Tableau at the time that they developed or at the time that they envisioned Tableau. Okay. Now, 50 million rows is where you store your big data, which is actually optimized for storing your data. Optimized means like to have your data as fast as possible. These technologies were developed. But Tableau is mainly a reporting tool. It's not to, like create a faster data server where you can query your server and have the data as fast as possible. So that is the reason if the number of records goes more than a limit, it's better to use your server where you can optimize it manually. Like, so for example, so imagine that you are going from, you need to go from Chicago to New York, okay? You can go by walk, you can go by car, you can go by flight, you can go by a jet or anything like that. Now, the thing is, if it's simply going from Chicago to New York, instead of searching all the possible paths, when you create an extract, you're simply saying, okay, take a flight from Chicago to New York. But if the distance is very long, okay, now you have to define each and every single minute step to decrease your time. That means from your home, start at 4 o'clock, don't start at 5, because at 5 offices will be like many people from the offices will be coming out and there will be a lot of traffic. So leave the house at 4 o'clock, take a cab from here to there. Now instead of taking a general public flight, take like book a jet, land in New York. Look, so you are basically identifying each and every single step while handling more steps. Okay, that means while handling more data, you're saying specifically do this, do that to improve the performance. And that is the reason if you are basically crossed the threshold, Tableau cannot handle so much. Okay, did you
Okay.
understand that, Vasu?
Yeah. So if that is the case, then if you have a 50 million records, so we have to go with the live connection. It's better to go with.
It's better to go with the library. Also, one small thing you have to remember here is for Tableau online, your data should be on the cloud. Okay, that means you can either use any of the basically you can use the live connection with any cloud data sources, something like Redshift, Amazon Redshift. You can use a live connection, or Google Analytics. You can use a live connection in that case while you have a Tableau online. But if your data is basically, say, in SQL Server or Oracle SQL Server or IBM DB2 Data Studio, so in these cases, you have to create an extract. So there is no other option. You should have an extract. You cannot have a live connection. So your performance will be slow if you're using Tableau online with these technologies. Okay.
Okay. So one more question. If you, I mean, so we need to extract only 50,000 million records at a time, or after that we can append some of the rows, like do incremental refresh. Can we do
No,
that
no, no,
one?
no, no. It's not preferable that way. It's basically like 50 million is the max that you can go to. I would say, like, for optimum performance, don't go more than 10 million. 50 million is max where it can handle, so that you can assume yourself that okay, Tableau is handling it and in an okay way. If you go more than that, then it's bad. Okay.
But
Tableau
in
can
the
handle it, but in a bad way. Okay.
Okay. So if you are going with a live connection, then it's going to be get impacted at the data source level, right? So whenever user is refreshing a report or dashboard, so obviously data source is getting impacted to pull all these records.
The
So
other alternative you can do is basically you can create another table, and you can do, basically you can schedule a stored procedure so that you can update this new table. Instead of connecting to OLTP, you connect to OLAP. Now, guys, if you don't understand what OLTP and what OLAP means, we'll discuss this while we're discussing SQL Server. Okay. Awesome. So let me mute everyone, and we'll discuss more elements on this worksheet pane. Okay. Awesome. So these two are the data sources, and we have seen more options on refreshing the extract and so on from here. So let's see more options in this one. So all the columns, so here we have seen all the columns, right? All the columns in this have been mainly divided into two types: your dimensions and your measures. Now let's talk about what these two mean. This is very important, sometimes asked in interviews. Well, basically basic interviews, or for freshers, they'll ask this: what is the difference between a dimension and a measure? The main difference is measures are your metrics. That means, what is the sales, what are the sales, what is the profit. So these are your metrics, right? You can do some of them, you can do an average. So there is a significance to that. So those are your measures. Now you do metrics against something, right? That means, for example, what are the sales for the year 2011? What are the sales from laptops? What are the sales from this store? What are the sales from Chicago? So all of these, you're measuring it against something. So this against something is called a dimension. Okay. Dimensions are basically what you measure your metrics against. So if asked in an interview, it's better to say metrics or aggregates, sorry, measures or metrics or aggregates. Okay. And dimensions are what you measure these metrics against. Against is an important word here. Okay. Are you guys clear? This is very important. I'm unmuting you. Okay, I just unmuted all of you. Are you guys clear on what I said? What is a measure and what is a dimension? So before let me say one more point. So yeah, one more point. So basically, if you can do an aggregation, that means if you can do sum, that means like addition. of each element of a column, then it's a measure. If you cannot, then you can put it in a dimension. That's a crude way of looking at it. Now remember, there should be a significance. That means, for example, take the column of postal code. Now postal code are numbers. So for numbers, you can do a sum, you can do an average, you can do a count, you can do count distinct, all of these. But postal code is a dimension. Why? Because if you do a sum of postal code, sum means not SOME, the way I'm saying it here is sum, SUM of say postal code. Okay. So when I do this sum of postal code here, it doesn't have a significance to that. You know, like what does my sum of my postal code and your postal code give me? I don't know, like it doesn't have any significance to that. But whereas sum of sales, what my sales, sum of my sales and sum of your sales gives you the total sale of both of us. So it has some significance to that. So if the aggregation that you're doing has a significance, then it's a measure. Okay. So that's the definition. So measures are basically metrics. That means values. And dimensions are what you measure these metrics against. Okay, awesome. So anyone, any questions? I have unmuted all of you. If you have any questions, you can unmute yourself if you haven't and speak with me. Okay, is everyone clear? Sunil, did you understand?
Yes, sure.
Okay, awesome. So once again, measures are values and dimensions are what you measure these values against. Values doesn't mean numbers. Okay, for example, postal code. For postal code, even though they are a number, it's not a value. Okay, awesome. Next, so we have our dimensions and measures. All the columns that you created or that you got from your data source will be sorted into these two types: your column, your dimensions, and your measures. So because it's coming from these two tables, customers and people's table, right? Remember, I joined data from customers and people table. So that's why all the customer columns, basically all the dimensions from customer are shown under customer. All the dimensions under people are shown under people by default. This is the default view. Okay. Now there are two new columns, mainly the measure names and measure values. These two columns are new. So what measure names will have is basically it's the list of all of these things. Oops, sorry. Before I do that, let me give you a brief elaborate view on this, and then we'll come back to the measure views and measure values. So these are your measure names, discount, profit. So these are present here. Okay, awesome. And this latitude and longitude are generated automatically. And how are they generated automatically? Because by default, this geographic role was defined. Okay, once you define this as a geographic role, it's going to try and pull latitude and longitude by looking into the corresponding field. Okay, now you have selected what the country you have selected is United States. So it can put the latitude and longitude for this country. Because you have defined the state column as a geographic column, geographic role, which will have field values from this type, you'll have the corresponding latitude and longitude for this type. So if I double click this, see what happens. It's going to generate a map. Now, Texas is listed on Texas, New Mexico on New Mexico. How is it doing that? Because by default, Tableau has this information. Now, where does this save this information? Under my Tableau repository, you have this map sources. So this is where it saves that information. Okay. Awesome. Do you have any questions till now, guys? Perfect. So the next thing here is rows and columns. Oh, one small thing I have failed to tell you. So when I selected customers, all the fields from customers will be displayed here. When I select orders, all the fields from orders will be listed here. Customers and orders. Okay. Perfect. Now next thing is your rows and columns. We have discussed all of this part. So whenever I put a field and all the values in that field, you want to see them as rows, you put that field in the rows. So when you want all of your values in the category column to be seen as a row, you put that column into the row. If you want to see all these values as each different column, put this into the columns. Okay. Now, the easier way to identify is if you want to see rows, then you put that into one moment. Okay. So if you want to see them as rows, each individual value as a row, then you put them into a row. If you want to see each individual value into your column or as a column, then you put them as columns. That's all. Okay. Rows and columns. Perfect. Next, if you want to remember, Tableau I have already mentioned to you is a drag and drop tool. It means nearly all of the actions can be accomplished by dragging and dropping. So if I want to see the sales information here, I can simply select and drop it. So this is my sales amount for the particular category. I can put this here and a bar will be generated. Okay. Under each bar, I have a sales amount, particular sales amount. So for furniture, my sales is $742,000 and so on. Okay. So basically, because I have put this into rows, I can see it like this. I want to see this as a text. I put this into text and I can see this as a text. The next thing, columns we have already discussed. So let's see, I put this in here. Each of these individual values are shown as a column. So that's why I have put this into column. This is rows. Awesome. So if nothing is there, this is your row, this is your column, and this is the text field, this field. Okay. Row. So whenever you put something, say I select something and put in rows, that means it's going to affect in this region. So putting it here or in a row are both same. Okay. Similarly, if I select this, putting it here as a column or here are both same. Okay. Perfect. So we have seen these two elements. Now so this area, okay, all of this area, which is nothing but not this area, which is not this area, is called report design pane. So whatever report that you're generating, the granular level of report that you're generating will be in this area. Okay. All of this area is called a report pane. So let's see, we'll create a simple granular one. So say order date, sales, category. Okay, as simple as that. Just now I have created a line graph between sales, year of order date, and what those colors signify, category. Don't worry, we'll talk about how to create a graph and which graph should be created in what instance will be discussed in future classes. Okay, awesome. And the next thing, Cesar, let's talk about these different elements. Guys, can you hear me? I got an error message stating my voice is not audible. Can you hear me?
Yes, sure.
Yes,
Okay,
Shiva,
awesome.
we can hear you.
Yeah, I got an error message saying my connection is bad or something. Okay, coming back to this. So we have seen these two. We have seen this region. Now let's talk about filters. I'm going to give a brief introduction about filters now. We're going to discuss more on filters in this section, quick filter section. Okay. So basically, to put a filter, so say you want to give a filter. Oh, no, 1 minute. Instead of year of order date. Now, if you want to show only technology information, okay, what you can do, select whatever field you want to put this filter on, select it, drag and drop it onto filter section. Now, because you want to show only furniture, select those values, click apply, click done. Okay, only this information is being shown. If you don't want your filter to be present, select it and undrag that. So select this. This is how I created a filter for technology. If I don't want this, click here and remove, or select this and basically drag it out of your region. Basically, wherever it's not highlighted in orange, drag and drop it over there. That's all. Okay, simple, right? So if I want to say create it based upon my 1 minute, say on state. Okay, I want only sales information for New York. Okay, what I'll do, select state, put it on filters. I want for New York, right? I can either search for it like this, or just now I've written that New York is listed here. Select it, click apply. Okay. See, these are my sales values for these categories for the state of New York. Undrag that. These are my all over US sales. So I want to go back, come forward, go back. Okay. Just like how you have Control Z and Control Y in many of the Microsoft applications. Awesome. Then, okay, we have these elements. Let's discuss these elements tomorrow. Okay. Now, before I close the session, do you have any questions or doubts? So, guys, this session is finished. So, if you want to leave, you are free to. But I'd prefer you hear the questions or any doubts that anyone else have. Okay. So, Revan asked me, where can I get the customer table? Revan, actually, remember the sample superstore file that you get? My Tableau repository under data sources. So this Excel file is the default one. So what I did earlier was, while I was showing some editing features or live connection on Tableau, I edited the orders table and saved it as a customer. Okay. So that is the reason you were seeing customer over there. It's actually orders table that you get with my Tableau repository or the sample superstore file. Awesome. Sai Sandeep asked me, I was wondering if you can retake the class. Sai Sandeep, which class? Do you mean to say the demo class
Yes,
or this class? Demo class. Okay.
them.
let me do one thing. I'll send an email to everyone who has given me an email ID today. Guys, if I miss your email, send me an email at intuition training 2016 at gmail.com. Okay. So even if someone missed and don't know how to contact me, this is my email ID. You can contact me here. Intuition training 2016 at gmail.com. Okay. So Sandeep, what I'll do today is I'll send an email to everyone in the class and ask about what your preference is for this Saturday and Sunday. Okay. Based on your preference, I would prefer, okay, personally, I would prefer having 2 hour session on Saturday and 2 hour session on Sunday. This way, we can finish the classes earlier. We can cover more topics in the scheduled time and you can start your job process. Okay. I don't want to consume more of your time. But if you think you need more time to practice, that's also fine with me. So I'll email you guys, and once I receive email from all of you, I'll send out a plan regarding the classes schedule either tomorrow or in tomorrow's class. Basically on Friday class, I'll let you know the schedule on Saturday and Sunday. Once we decide that, I'll take an extra session for you, Raven. Okay? Awesome. Size, okay. Any other questions, guys?
Yeah, Shiva. Can you go back to the desktop?
One moment.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay. On Tableau desktop.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in the data source, you have selected customers and orders, right? The join condition.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, customer or people. Okay. So since we have these two tabs, so it's taking as a table. So what if I have one spreadsheet I have a customer and another one is having a people? So how do I join between these two spreadsheets?
You mean to say two different worksheets? Oh,
Yes.
sorry, different workbooks or worksheets?
I say, I mean, my source is having one Excel sheet I'm having customer, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and another Excel sheet is having a people. So how do I
Okay.
join between these?
So we use something called data blending for that. We'll cover
Yes.
data blending once we finish the SQL part. So here we talk about the data connections, extracts, and then we talk about the data blending part. So data blending is what we use to get information from more than one data source. So for example, under customers, I've selected the states, right? Where is the states coming from? State is coming from the customer table. So if I want my sales information from orders, I can select the sales and put it on orders. Now this blue tick defines that this is a secondary data source, and blue means it's the first data source. Okay. So we'll talk about what is primary data source, what is secondary data source, and what are the requirements to get data from more than one data source. Okay.
Okay. So coming to the same question. So in my spreadsheet, okay, so I have three tabs. Okay. So instead of three, I have one more tab. So which is having the number of rows. Okay. So I think depends upon the Excel version. So
Mhm.
in one tab we can have 1 lakh records, 1,20,000, something like that. So the next rows is moved to some other tab. Okay, so
Okay.
how do you handle this kind of situation?
Okay. If it's Excel, we're talking only about Excel here.
Yep.
Okay. If it's another server, we use basically a union. But if it's Excel, what we do here, oh, sorry. Mm, Or did I close this? Okay. Yeah. On the data source pane, I have something called union, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
what union does, we are going to cover what union means in SQL part. Okay. But idea of union is that what you just said right now, like basically you appended some data from one worksheet to other. That means you're saving, you're not saving all of your data in one sheet. You want to add more rows, right? Then what you can do, you can select this new union, or you can select this and drag it like this. Drag table to union. What union does is it basically adds records from one table with another table. Okay. So imagine a scenario, something like this. So something like employee ID and employee name. Okay. Now here I have Shiva. Oh, sorry. Employee ID is 101 and employee name is Shiva. 102 and say here Brian. Okay. Now this is saved in one table, and in next table or next sheet in your case, I have employee ID in one and employee name here. And here I have something like 103 record. Here the name is Nate. 104 record and the name is say Dave. Okay. Then the final result said that according to your question, you need something like this, right? Employee ID, employee name, and you need these two records, and also you need these two records. So this is your requirement, right, Vasu?
Yes, Shiva.
Yes. For that we use a union. So how do we use union for that? So basically you can select it and drag table to union. If you drag it here, what happens? You'll create a join. But instead of join, if you want to create union, you can drag and drop it like this. Okay. Now, while we're discussing SQL, I'll go more in depth into um, what is the difference between a join and a table and a union. But let me give you a basic idea. So say I have another table, employee ID and salary. Okay. Here I have something like 101. The salary is say 50,000. 102 and say 65,000. Okay. So now if the final information that you want is, let's say, employee ID, employee name, employee, sorry, salary. Okay. And employee ID is 101, say Shiva, and the salary is 50,000. Employee ID is 102. I have Brian, and then I have 65,000 here. Okay. So in this case, we use join. So what join does is basically join adds the number of columns. Now, initially there were two columns here. Now, what I did, I added this third column, right? So adding columns from more than one table is called a join. Adding rows, so I added these two new rows. The number of columns is 2 in both the cases. Adding rows is called a union. Okay. So whenever you add information from more than one table, you can either add rows or add columns. So adding rows is called a union. Rows is called a union. Adding columns is called a join. Okay. Now we'll go more depth into these two topics when we're discussing SQL Server. Okay. Awesome. Any other questions? Are you clear, Vasu?
Yeah, I'm fine, Shiva, with this. I don't have any issue.
Awesome. Any other questions, guys?
Hey Shiva, this is Sudhir.
Hi, Sudhir.
Actually, we missed the first three classes, right? So if everyone is okay with that, so we can go on Saturday and Sunday. So we can take like a half an hour extra and we can finish that.
Yes. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, that's what my original plan is. So let's see what the schedule is and what everyone says on Saturday about Saturday and Sunday. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So that we will plan for practice and everything because we don't know how to install that on everything, right? So that's why, like I think we are having 4 to 5 people, I think so.
Okay. Yeah.
I
No
think four
problem.
people.
We can
Okay.
schedule something. Actually, I thought of scheduling it on Wednesday, but I did not get any email from any of you regarding that. So that's why.
Oh, okay. So maybe I think a Saturday or Sunday it will be very good for us.
Yeah, we can do that. Let's do that. Okay.
Okay. Thank you,
Awesome.
Shiva. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions, guys? Oh, Sandeep has asked me, what is segment? Okay. Sandeep, where did you see segment information?
Actually, I saw it in the dimensions.
Oh, sorry.
In the order dimensions. Yeah, Donna
Sandeep,
provided.
can you mute yourself for a moment? Yeah, actually, I'm hearing an echo. So, okay. Segment is a column. So let's see here. Okay. If you observe this column H, okay, this column has a heading segment. So that's the column name. Okay. Because that's the column name, that's what you can see it as a field name. Okay, any other questions, guys? Awesome.
Shiva, I have installed trial version. So, are you going to provide any key for that, like for 6
No,
months?
no, for that you need a student access. I cannot provide a key for that. But install Tableau public desktop or Tableau desktop public.
Okay, Tableau.
Okay.
Public.
Desktop public.
So which version are you talking about? 8.2?
No, we are basically discussing 9.2 and 9.3.
Okay.
But the server that I'm going to say will be in Tableau 8.2. Okay. 8.3, my mistake. Tableau server that we'll discuss is in 8.3 and Tableau desktop will be in 9.3.
Okay.
Awesome.
Why? Because I'm asking is, 9.3 has come, I think, last 2 months back.
1 month back, yeah.
Yeah, 1 or 2 months back. So, most of they are concentrating mainly on 8 version and 7 version. So all
No. They're concentrating mostly on 9.1 and 9.2. 9 version came like 7-8 months back.
Yeah, that's what 7-8 months back. That when we put some years experience, so they are asking on those kind of things. So if you have any, just can you compare with something that in 8 version these features are not working and 9 these are working? Like if you say
we can. Yeah, when we discuss Tableau server, right? I'll open Tableau desktop 8.3 and then we'll discuss what are the differences between Tableau 8 and Tableau 9. Okay.
Okay.
That's a very important question where they'll many times that will be asked in the interviews. Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. And one more thing. Raven just asked me if we have a .edu account, which one should you install? So if you search for Tableau desktop for students, okay, Tableau desktop for students, you will get a link, and if you register in that link, you can get a Tableau student version, which will have a key for 1 year. One important thing that you might like is you can use this version of license in 5 different machines, or 5 times you can use this. Okay, I understand this. So you can share your key and it will be fine. So let's do one thing. So some of you has a .edu account, right? So once you can procure that license, if you want to share it with others, Send an email to me with the key and I'll share it with others. Okay, guys? Because whatever keys I had, I have already distributed them in other batches. Awesome. Any other questions?
Shiva, final question for the day. So you have been selected line chart, right? Line graph. I mean, I know you are going to cover in future classes. Just for curiosity, I'm asking. So why you have selected line graph and why we need to go, especially or when we need to go with the line?
Okay.
Just
So
can you?
whenever you are checking for a trend, right?
Uh-huh.
Whenever you're checking for trend, then we go for a line graph. Trend means basically it involves a date, right? So basically between 2013 and 2014, that's a trend. So whenever a date is involved, we try to go for a line chart rather than a bar or something else.
Okay.
That's just a best practice. Okay, that doesn't mean you cannot choose something else. You can do others, but that's one of the best practices. That's all. Okay.
Okay. So then what's the difference between a line and dot?
Scatter plot, you mean?
No, we have a line and circles or something. I'm not sure.
This one?
Where is it?
Sorry. Say this one. Do you mean to say this one or this one?
Yeah, I mean,
Well, circle as in pi, something like this. One moment. Something like this. Okay. Try to find out which you mean, and then we'll discuss that. Okay.
the line. Oh, yeah, okay.
Awesome. Okay. Perfect, guys. If you don't have any other questions, we'll close the session for today. We'll meet again same time tomorrow. Okay. And in the meanwhile, I'll send an email to all of you who has sent me your email IDs so that I'll basically ask you what is your plan for Saturday and Sunday. Okay. Also, please mention that if you know, like definitely cannot come, like you have already made a plan and you will not come definitely on that at the time. This will be helpful because I can I'll I'll try to avoid those times. Okay. Perfect. Have a good night, guys, and we'll meet again tomorrow. Bye.
But
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye, Shiva. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.